In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint this Christmas snowman item using the Kimple colors. Step 1 is to prime and base coat your piece. I primed this using Kimple's primer, and then I base coated it in an acrylic white, and any acrylic white will work. I found that they all work the same. Using Kimple's ebony, I'm going to go around the crevices, and then also on the cord. Just coat that. It can be real sloppy. Start covering up and catch all the cracks in this ebony. So this is what it looks like, coated in the ebony. I didn't do the head, I'll do that last. And the reason that you want to do this is that it's going to create nice shadows. And put it on sloppy. You don't really need to be careful. In some ways you want to be sloppy because you want that dark color in all those crevices. And you kind of want it to be sloppy so that it doesn't create a crisp, clean edge. You kind of want a rough, you're kind of a sloppy edge. So then just using your cloth rag, start pulling this back. It's okay if it smudges and gets everywhere. Like I said, that actually will help create shadows and create dimension in your item. And then just the size of your finger will naturally keep the darkness in the deepest cracks. So just work this until you get it pulled back. So this is what it looks like pulled back, and you can see it's pretty sloppy. So I'm going to use my favorite product to help pull back, and in this case kind of clean up the white areas, bring them back to the nice white. And the only product that I ever use to help pull back is Deco Art Drying Time. It's Americana's excuse me, Drying Time Extender Medium. And I'm able to purchase this at my local craft store. So find a clean spot on your cotton rag. Just put a little bit of it on there. Don't need much. Just rub it in. And then just start going over the areas that you want pulled back more. And just get it wet. And then when your spot gets dirty, find a clean spot, put a little bit more of the product on it, apply it again, and then you just keep working it until you can get it pulled back. You may not get to back to that bright white, and that's okay. Doesn't need to. So I'm gonna keep working this. So this is what the item looks like after I use that drying time extender to clean it up as best I could. And I don't know if you can see, but I mean there's still a little bit of color on the tummy and in some areas, and that's okay. That's actually going to help create some nice shadows, so don't worry too much if you aren't able to get it back to the original white. It's okay if it's a little bit dirty. Like I said, that actually helps create shadows along your edges. I'm going to cover up the top piece because I'm going to do that last, and my hands get dirty as I do this, and so I want this to stay nice and clean. So I'm just going to put a clean rag over it and then just use a ponytail holder or a rubber band to hold that down. That way I can grab up there and I don't have to worry about it getting dirty. Using Kimple Sapphire, cover up all the snow areas in it full strength, and just slop it on. Just be careful, it's only going to go on the snow area, so do try to be careful around the edges here. Then using a rag, don't use a paper towel because a paper towel isn't soft enough and it'll leave kind of scratch marks on it. So you really do need to use a soft cotton rag. And just start pulling this back. I just use round circular motions. And now you do want to be careful. You don't want the blue to get on other parts. So as you get close to an edge, if you're not comfortable using a rag, you can just use a Q-tip to pull away, pull back closer to the edges, and it'll help control it a lot more. And then definitely in these small areas here, you'll have to use a Q-tip. Your finger will just be too big and it'll end up getting bits of blue on here, and you do want to keep those as clean as possible. So this is what it looks like pulled back. Next, using Kimple's white, and you're going to want to use a real brush that does lay flat with a square tip, and get some of the Kimple's color on it, and then might be easiest to, once you have the color, just rub it on. I'm using a ceramic tile. You could use a paper plate or just about anything. And the goal is to, you just want the paint to be on the brush nice and flat and even. And so at an angle of scraping a peanut butter jar, you're just going to go over it, and the goal is just to catch the edges, so that the top edges are white, and then it'll leave the blue underneath. And then you just continue to repeat this process until you get it the way that you want. Some people might like a lot of white on there, and then others might like just a little bit. So it's a personal preference. So this is what it looks like. Using that technique with the Kimple white on the brush, and not really sure what you call it, but like I said, scraping like a peanut butter jar at that strong angle. Kind of you're just really just catching those edges barely. Using Kimple's Evergreen, go over all of the light cords, cover them full strength, and just be careful. You just want it to be on the cord. And so this one, these, and using your cotton rag or a Q-tip, I'll have to switch over. I'm just gonna go over the top edge, and then I'll have to switch to a Q-tip for the rest because the area is just too small and you don't want to get green on the other areas. So I'm going to switch over to a Q-tip, and then just continue pulling it back and really you're just kind of going to soften that edge. This is what it looks like pulled back. Next I'm going to do the light bulbs, and I'm just going to do those in a variety of bright colors. You can do it really, obviously you can do these in any color you wish. I like to pick the bright colors. And using a Q-tip, start pulling back. And just pull back until you get the look that you like. Next I'm going to finish up the snowman. So cover up all the snow areas in blue, including his face. Just paint his whole face blue. So I coated all the snow in Kimple's sapphire blue, and then the scarf in green and the edges, and so then using a Q-tip, start pulling back. This is what it looks like pulled back, just using a rag and a cotton Q-tip. But I want it pulled back a little bit more, so I'm going to use the drying time extender. Put some of it on your Q-tip. And on the face area, especially like the cheeks, the mouth, and the forehead. I just want that to be a little bit whiter. So just continue rubbing it. And you'll see that it'll start pull it back a little bit more. And then I guess everywhere, I want the edges to be a little bit whiter. So I'm going to keep working this. Using the same technique as the snow, I'm going to use Kimple's white and just brush over, catching those edges to whiten it up. And using Kimple's Angel Flesh, I just put a little bit of it on a Q-tip, and then I'm just going to rub it on the face just to warm it up. Just kind of again on the main areas, the forehead, cheeks. And once you put it on there, switch to the clean side and pull it back and soften it. And just blend it in until it looks nice and soft. Then using Kimple's Primrose, again, just the tiniest bit on a Q-tip. Just dab it on the cheeks and then switch to the clean end and rub that around and blend it in until it's nice and soft looking. That's what the face looks like with the Angel Flesh and the Primrose pulled back and softened. Step one for the eyes is you always do the whites of the eye, and you always want to use an acrylic white. Don't ever use Kimple's white because they're designed to pull back, and an acrylic isn't. You want something permanent. And so coat the entire eye, both eyes, in white. The next step for the eye is your iris color. And I typically try to match the iris color to the item, so I'm using a metallic blue. And it's going to be too hard for me to do while filming, and so I'll show you after I'm done. So that's the iris, and just, you know, this one's going to be looking straight ahead, and just a nice little circle shape at the bottom. Next is the iris. You always do that in black, an acrylic black. Sometimes it helps to put a little water, thin it down a little bit. So then I did the iris in black, and then I went ahead and did the eyelashes. It's too hard to do it on camera for this item. This item's a little bit smaller, but I do have other videos on how I paint eyes and the eyelashes. Your last step is a little white dot in the 2 o'clock position, again using an acrylic white. And if you kind of shake your paintbrush, it'll create a little dot at the end. It might be too big. And so you just put a little white dot in the 2 o'clock position on each eye. That's the most natural. And that's it. The eyes are done. And then the final items, the bucket, shovel, and hat, I'm going to do all in ruby red. It's painted on Kimple's ruby red, painted on full strength. So these are the items in red, and then the base I did the same Kimple's sapphire blue and then went over it in white, and I want just a little bit of that same effect up on the hat here. Just a little, whiten that up, and then on the little, and you can do it on the scarf too. Again, this is a personal preference. You could leave it, or you could whiten it up. And so this is the finished item. The final thing that you'd want to do is spray it in an acrylic. This is just a clear gloss lacquer that you can get at a hardware store or a craft store. And I found that they all work the same, but it will give it a protective finish. You don't want to leave it like this. You want to let it dry for at least 24 hours, maybe even a couple days, and then spray it with a clear finish. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and it inspires you to try out the Kimple colors, and happy painting!